Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I am Brenda Dettinger from BioPack, and I will be your moderator on today's webinar, where you are going to learn about the new MP200 platform and the new AcqKnowledge Cloud. Today's webinar is being recorded, and we'll send each of you a link once the recording is processed. During the webinar, if you have questions, please send them to me through the GoToWebinar control panel. That's how you communicate with me, your moderator. Before we get to our presenter, I have a quick announcement. We host a biennial human physiology training event, and registration is open. We'll be hosting this event again in July of 2025 here in Santa Barbara at UC Santa Barbara in California, and we'd love to have you join us. It's a great opportunity for you to get hands-on experience with all the BioPack devices, including the ones on today's webinar. Here are just a few of my favorite photos from the 2023 event. So save the date, July 14th in 2025, and meet us in California. Now on to our presenter. We have an excellent speaker today. We have Fraser Finlay, the CEO of BioPack. He has over 25 years of experience in the life sciences and physiology monitoring industry. Fraser oversees the development of physiology data collection and analysis products and is a well-regarded expert who presents at workshops all over the world. Welcome, Fraser.
Thank you, Brenda. Welcome, everyone.
All right, I'm going to make you presenter. Here you go.
Perfect. Thank you, Brenda. Get organized here. Okay, well, welcome everyone to our MP200 and AcqKnowledge Cloud webinar. Brenda, thanks for the introduction. Before we start, though, I have a little background information about BioPack. BioPack develops high-quality scientific tools that allow you to measure physiology anytime, anywhere, with any subject. We've been in business for over 30 years, and 99 of the top 100 universities use BioPack products. Many of the largest technology, consumer products, and pharmaceutical companies use our products for development and validation. And all those customers have helped to generate over 53,000 citations that mention BioPack. Again, thanks for joining us this morning for this introduction to the MP200 and AcqKnowledge Cloud. The MP200 is BioPack's next generation of data acquisition hardware for the research community. The MP platform has evolved since the introduction of the MP100 and the 100 series of amplifiers that were released during the early 90s. Here's a quick look at the new device. It follows the same form factor as the current MP160 and the previous MP150 units, but provides a better user experience when first connecting to the system. And if I switch my camera, so this is the MP200. As I just mentioned, it follows exactly the same form factor as the MP160. So we have an AMI module that connects to it. Then any of our amplifiers either connect through the front of the AMI by connecting to the bus either to the right of the AMI or between the MP200 and the AMI. And we'll get into the details in a moment. So back when the MP100 was first introduced, none of us at BioPack could have predicted the significance the MP hardware platform would play in physiology data collection. Those I mean, there are literally thousands of 100 series amplifiers spanning the globe, supporting the scientific community, and the technology has evolved to meet the ever-changing demands of the market. From the latest generation of smart amplifiers that are about the size of a thumb drive, to the wireless biomimetic series of amplifiers and receivers that allow participants to move freely around the lab and beyond, to the MRI smart amplifiers that help reduce gradient noise from physiology data collected inside the MRI. And the most important point for existing users, every 100 series amplifier is still compatible with the latest MP200 technology. That means that investments made in the 1990s can still be utilized today. And I know from one of the questions that we received through the registration process, which came in from Gabriella, she indicated that her lab still has an MP100 system. That means that they could have had approximately 30 years of service from the same hardware. And if they elect to upgrade to the MP200, they can continue to use the same amplifiers, which when you think about it is pretty remarkable when you consider how many times computers, computer operating systems, and peripheral devices have been updated over that same period. The MP200 represents the beginning of the journey, and with all new state-of-the-art electronic technology that BioPack can start to exploit and add further functionality to support the countless applications the hardware is used for. The 16 8D converters, the things inside the box that convert the signals from the body into digital information, are high-end and capable of recording data at 100,000 samples per second. The Ethernet controller is all new and connects more efficiently, and the display on the front panel provides immediate information about the IP address and the real-time clock information. The small display provides better feedback and support. You can even name the device. This may seem trivial, but if you're fortunate to be in a lab with a lot of MP devices, it helps to know which device you're talking to. And, it never hurts to be able to personalize your own equipment. The real-time clock allows for greater communication with disparate devices and data streams. Aligning data will become a whole lot easier and makes the recent lab streaming layer support much more compelling. You can remotely start and stop the hardware, enable the stimulator through third-party devices such as stimulus presentation systems like ePrime and SuperLab. And then there's the new integration with AcqKnowledge Cloud, a tool that will simplify much of the housekeeping that comes along with running a study and collecting subject data. Now you can store all of your data in one study location and include all the participant metadata that is so important for further analysis and understanding. This includes all your video files, stimulus presentation files, PDF documents, AcqKnowledge template and data files, plus participant records and study protocols. AcqKnowledge software operates the same, but now you can push data to the cloud and colleagues can access the data immediately. This is all built on the Azure technology, one of the world's largest cloud platforms used by individuals, companies, and governments. With that being said, let's pause for a second and take our first poll of the day. So Brenda, I'm going to hand over to you for our first poll.
All right, here we go. I'm going to launch this poll. We're curious after we had some comments about what systems people were using and the questions. We wanted to know which MP system you are currently on. Right now, we've got one person on the MP100 and it, just so you know, Fraser.
Fantastic.
Oh, and here I have a question. When will the MP200 be available?
We'll be shipping any day now, Brenda. We are in the process of switching everything over from the MP160 to the MP200.
Okay, great. All right, let me check the results here. Looks like most people have the MP160, MP150 is in second place, and still one person on the MP100, and then several people on the MP36R. And all right, well, thanks everyone for participating. Appreciate your time. I'm going to end the poll and then go back to you, Fraser.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Brenda. Okay, so I'm going to change around here a second. Change which monitor is my active one, so bear with me. Okay, perfect. Okay, so the MP200 is essentially an update of the hardware. So for those of you that are familiar with AcqKnowledge, this is just a file that I've got open, ECG. You'll notice that along the top menu of AcqKnowledge, we have MP200. This menu here, this is the device menu. So this is the menu that controls everything to do with your hardware. So for those of you that have an MP100, obviously this will be labeled MP100. If it's an MP150, you'll see MP150 up here, so on and so forth. And then if you're using any of our third-party platforms, such as the Apex EEG system, you'll see Apex up here, just as an example. So this menu here really is the basic indicator that things have changed a little bit with regards to certainly the device I've got connected. I will change my camera as well. Alrighty. So I mentioned before on the right-hand side, sorry, at the top rather, not the right-hand side, on the top of my display, just by my thumb, there's a really small little display here. And its purpose is to provide you with a little bit of information. So on the unit here, it actually has the name of my unit, which is, although the camera doesn't pick it up very well, it's aliasing a little bit. It has my name, FJF, or my initials, FJF unit. It has the serial number of the device, and then it has the IP address, and then it has the revision number of the firmware, and then the time. So that little display is providing some sort of relevant information. Down below, we've got an LED. Green indicates that the device is connected to the network and the software is connected to it. So it's in a state where it's ready to collect data. I've got a cable
Here, let
that's
me
got,
interrupt you real quick. Are you showing your AcqKnowledge screen?
I am
Did you?
showing my AcqKnowledge screen.
Okay, just wanted to double check. Okay, thanks.
Um, so lost my train of thought there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start recording some data. Oh, yes, I know what I started to say. So The two cables here that you can see are in fact one cable, and I'm outputting a waveform and recording it into channel 1. That way I don't need to have myself connected to the system. So when we come in here, if I come into channels, I've just got a signal that I'm collecting on channel 1, and then under my stimulator I'm actually outputting a signal. It's an ECG signal, and then coming back into channels, I've got a couple of calculation channels. The first one is recording heart rate, and the second one is recording the R to R interval. So it just gives you something to look at while I'm recording data. So in terms of setup and use of the system, really not a lot has changed in that regard. I mean, you will instantly, if you drop an MP200 into your system, you'll instantly feel at home. One thing we've added here, you get a little bit more information about the system, the clock settings for the real-time clock. There's an advanced panel. This is where you get to set up your device name, where you can control, there's a screensaver on there. There's also a log file, so we can download information from the device. So if there are any support issues or anything like that, we have access to that. There's some other controls here regarding the display and then the performance of the device. Okay, so that kind of gives you a kind of a taste for the MP200. The next part I want to get into is the AcqKnowledge software, the cloud software. And you'll see that we've got this new menu over here labeled study, and you can log into a study and then you have access to all these controls. But before we get into this, I'm going to switch over to the cloud platform and we'll take a look at it from the cloud side, and then we'll come back into AcqKnowledge because things will make a little bit more sense if we follow through that way. So this is the cloud. I've already logged in just to save a little bit of time, but it's a login by email and password, and you have two-factor authentication on there, or you can elect to turn it off if you don't want that, but the system will send a code to your cell phone, and then you enter the code and that will allow you in. Once you access the cloud, you come into this home page, and this home page is based on your account. Okay, so along the top you get some information about the number of potential users for your account, the active storage space, any archived space, and then you get a visual of these areas. So I've got 3 files archived, and you can tab over here to see those. So I've archived 3 files. Archiving them just means that I'm no longer using them. I've parked them out of the way. I've got active studies ongoing, and we'll get into those in a minute. And then I've got a paused study. So this is just a very, very high level view. Top right hand corner over here, account. You've got your name, login, whether you're using two-factor authentication or not, and obviously you can log out and it will take you back around. On the left hand side, you can come over here, it takes you back to your home. or you've got some other menu items down here. And users, these are the people that are involved in your studies, in your account. So these would typically be colleagues and researchers. They can have predefined roles. So you're either admin, a manager, or a researcher. And those roles come with different security levels and access to certain tools, such as the ability to delete data, the ability to perform certain tasks within the system. Now, for my account here, I've got two people in here, myself as admin and this fellow Bob Watkins as a manager. And I can invite new users to an organization, and then I can add those into specific studies. And I'll come back to that in a moment. We've also got the administration, so this gives you the information about your account. Got a scratch pad. A scratch pad is an area where you can park your files. You can have shared files, and then you can view all the Scratchpad files. I don't have any in the Scratchpad. Scratchpad is sort of a repository that isn't assigned to a specific study per se. This is sort of your free area where you can just put whatever files you want. And down below, we get into the business end of things, and we can view our active studies. So I've got a whole slew of different studies here. I created this one specifically for the webinar today. It's called Webinar Stress Test. There are 2 users. We've got 10 participants, and I can come in and view this particular study. When we open up the study, we get a little bit of summary information about it. This study looks at presenters, electrodermal activity data while they present live, ... But you can add, can be way more verbose about the description. You can add some meta tags. That way, if you've got a whole lot of studies, it can help you to find the one you're looking for. The participant ID can be automatically assigned or manually assigned, and I'll show you that in a moment. But the system will, what that means is the system will automatically generate a participant ID when you enroll them for a study. And then there's an upload limit which you can control. I've got this very low level at the moment. And then you can update this, and it will update any changes that you've made. This gives you information about any files that have been uploaded by colleagues, and I'll demonstrate that in a moment. Down below, with this particular study, myself and Bob are the people responsible for collecting the data and controlling all the data within the study. And down below, we can see all of our participants. So we've got 10 participants in this particular study. Along the top here, you can sort, for example, part of the data that we collected, we wanted to know, the differences between males and females. So I can look at the male participants. So these are just the male participants, and I can see the data, the participant number, how many files have been uploaded. So this participant S1172, you can come in and look at that particular participant. They've had 5 files uploaded. There's the summary information. Male, age 43, height 5'1", 190 pounds, and they're in the presenters group. Over on the right, I can see the files that I've uploaded for this particular study. If If I scroll across, I've got controls here. I can download that data. If I want to look at it again, I can delete it. So this is the area where I control my data. I can upload new data from within the cloud, or I can upload from within AcqKnowledge, and I'll demonstrate both of those. We can look at all the presenters. So at the moment we're looking at the males, but if we can't slide across here, we can say, okay, let's look at all the males that are non-presenters, which there are 2. Okay, so this is giving you control of the data based around that meta information that's relevant to your study participants. And I'll get into all of that in a moment, but for now I'm going to hand you back over to Brenda for our next poll of the day.
Okay, great. Here we go. Next poll. How do you manage your study and participant beta currently? Oh, let me launch it. There you go.
I realized my camera was wrong.
Okay, so Fraser, I have a question. Which MP systems does the AcqKnowledge Cloud work with?
Basically, any of the currently supported hardware platforms. So if AcqKnowledge supports the platform, you can use the cloud with it. So that would be the MP150, the MP160, and the MP200 devices. Unfortunately, not the MP100. The AcqKnowledge software no longer supports that hardware, but also MP36R, etc. So just, the current platforms.
Okay, great. And it looks like most people are using files and folders to manage their study files, and evenly spread between database and spreadsheets, with a smaller group of people using Word and Google Docs.
Awesome. Okay, great. Well, hopefully we'll be able to show you some ways in which using the study management elements of the cloud will make your life a little easier.
Great. I've closed the poll. Back to you, Fraser.
All right. Thanks, Brenda. Thanks, everyone, for participating in our poll there. All right. So I'm going to go back up to the top of the list, and I'm going to invite a new user to my study. So over here, we've got this option here to invite someone, and I'm going to invite Brenda. So I'm going to send the email to Brenda, and I'm going to make Brenda a manager. And I'm going to send the invite. It's telling me that an invite has already been sent because we've obviously done this before. But I'm going to resend that invite. Brenda will get an email that will provide her with a link that will allow her to access the system. So the invitation is sent.
Make myself presenter here.
Okay, thanks, Brenda.
Share my screen. I'm going to go to my email. Just opened up this email here. So I'm going to click join the network. And I had already logged in previously in preparation for this webinar. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in. And now I will show you that I am associated with Fraser's network here. And then we'll go back to you, Fraser, to show the next step.
Awesome.
So let me get you back there. Okay, there you go.
Great, thanks, Brenda. Okay, so now if I refresh over here, Brenda appears in my list of users. Now at the moment, Oh, I beg your pardon, sorry.
There we go.
Too much back and forth, Brenda.
A lot of back and forth on this one.
Yeah, okay. So after I refreshed my screen, Brenda now pops up in my list, and I haven't assigned her to any studies at the moment. She's just now part of my group. But I would like to add Brenda to one of my studies. I realize I need a little bit of extra help. I'm going to come into that webinar stress test study. So I'm going to view that study. If you remember, both Bob and I have been doing all the heavy lifting on this one. So we're going to invite Brenda to step up and help out with some of the data collection. And I can assign a new user from my pool of users. So I can add, you can see Bob's already added. I'm going to add Brenda, and now she's added to that study. I can just close this out. She shows up as a user for the webinar stress test. And Brenda, I'm going to hand back to you, and you can upload a study file so that we can see that interaction taking place, if you don't mind.
Okay, so I'm sharing my screen again. Yep, okay. And so here's where I, excuse me, here's where I left you. I'm in Fraser's network. I'm going to now go to active studies, and you can see that I have been added to the webinar stress test. I had set up my own study yesterday for fun, a fear study in honor of Halloween coming up. And if I click and view the study, then I have access to everything that Fraser had access to. I can view participants, I can filter and sort the data. I can also upload a file. So I'm going to click this button here to choose files from my desktop. Let me get to my desktop right here. And it's uploading the file. So now you can see that that file has been uploaded here. And then I can also scroll down and I can add a participant. And I can select all of, fill in the form for all of the different metadata points that he set up. So I'm just going to pick October 15th. I'll go back to 2006. Height is 5.9. Weight is 150. And I'm going to put this one in the presenters group. So I've created that participant. And now I can also upload files to the participants. So I'll go ahead and show how to do that. And I have completed my work with this participant. I can go back to the study. And then was that the, yeah, so it's the F8368 participant. And now I will go back to you, Fraser.
Awesome. Thanks, Brenda. Appreciate it.
There you go.
Thank you. Perfect. Okie dokie. So on my side, if I just refresh my display again, now we can see the file that Brenda uploaded as a study file. And I can come along and I can download that file. So if I want to take a look at it, just to make sure that I'm approving that it's a good file, or I can delete it out of there. I can also come down to users, and if I change my filters to show all, I can see that first participant that Brenda added in there, and I can see the file that she has uploaded. and I can download or delete that data. So again, I've got the summary that Brenda added. So no matter where someone is in terms of their location, you can be accessing the data as they're doing it. You don't actually have to be in the lab on their local area network. You can be, different city, different state, different country. It really doesn't matter. It gives you total flexibility with regards to how you access the data. Alrighty, so let's back up a little bit. So now we get the concept of, well, we've got an active study, we've got these participants, we've got this metadata, everything is managed within there. We can see how we can control the data. We basically have created this environment where all the relevant files and information can be stored. And study files, this doesn't have to be just the data. This can be anything. These can be all the files that are relevant to this study. So these could be the template files, for example. These could be stimulus presentation files, things that are relevant when a technician is going to start collecting their data. Excuse me, that can include the study-specific instructions, basically everything you need to know for this study can be contained within this area. And any one of the people that are listed as a user can access this information to varying degrees. Okay, so that's the overview of the active studies. Let's just come in and see how we create a new study. So if I come in and select create new study, obviously I need to give this a study name. So I'm going to call this test study for webinar. Oops. I can add in a description. Let's just say this is ECG and RESP from right, whatever description you want. Add in any meta tags. Now earlier I had mentioned, and Brenda demonstrated this when she added a new participant, the ID was already created. Here you can control the format of your preferred participant ID. For my preference is just to have it so that it's automatically signed, but if you've got a format that you like to use and you've already got the study ongoing, then this is a way in which you can control that. The next step after you've entered the name, you can also set an upload limit. So if you want to restrict the amount of space that people can upload, you can control that here. This can be adjusted as well, or you can just leave it that there is no limit. Once you've done that, you click next step. Okay, so we've created this new study. I can assign users, or I can do that later. And I can say, okay, I'm going to add Brenda. And now I can create this study form. So this would be the typical information that you would keep. Now, a lot of times you don't want to know the participant's name, so you can eliminate that. But maybe you do want to know their biological sex. Maybe you want to create a study group, and you can say, okay, well, I've got two groups of participants. Say that I've got students is one group, and I know I'm going to have 20 students for argument's sake, and then my second group will be faculty, and I've got 20, and you can have as many different groups as you want. There's lots of different things that you can add here. You can add the date, height, weight, age, any medications that people are on. You can add custom fields. You can add a note field. Note field can be useful if there's any observational things that you may have observed when the participant came in as part of their test. So it's easy to add any of these things. Put notes in there. So now I've got this notes field as well. I'm just going to save this. So now when I come in to view this study, I've got the summary information that we entered. Brenda and I are involved in this particular study. We don't have any participants in there at the moment, but we can add them. So doing the same thing that Brenda did earlier, you can add these what I would call piecemeal, so one at a time, or you can upload from a file. So when you do this, the software will provide you with a template. I'm going to open this template. This is an Excel file. It's a CSV actually, but we'll open in Excel. So comma separated variables, and this gives me the headings for the different participants, and then it gives me some examples. So I can come in, let's say I've already got my 40 participants in a document. I can come in and list them all down here, all 40 of them, save that, and study group A, study group B. A is students, B faculty, and then notes is just blank, of course. I can save that. I'm just going to close this out. And then I can upload that. And when I upload it, I will then have all 40 participants already listed in the system. So you don't have to do things manually the way we did before. Again, this is that participant number that was automatically created. I can set the ID and continue, and now I'm asked those same questions that we decided we wanted to keep. So male, they are faculty, and then if I want, I can add any notes at this point, and I'm going to create this participant. Now we can go through the process of uploading data, etc., etc. Okay, so creating a study, adding participants, inviting users to your group, all of those things can be done very nicely from within the cloud software. What I'm going to do now is show you the other side of this from AcqKnowledge. And Brenda, I'm going to hand back over to you at this point for our final poll of the day.
Okay, great. I'm getting questions and I'm answering them, just so you know. So, but I did have this one question that I wanted to ask you while we're doing this poll. And I have to click the launch button again. Here we go. All right. So what limitations exist on the participant data in AcqKnowledge Cloud?
There really aren't any, to be honest with you. Any of the files, obviously AcqKnowledge files, template files, stimulus presentation files, any video files that you've collected, PDFs, Excel files, Word documents. I mean, all the common files that you would want to associate or to save as part of a study, all of those can be saved within the cloud system.
Okay. Alrighty, it looks like the moderate group is winning. So people on this session are saying that they collect a moderate amount of data, with the equal number of participants showing, collecting minimal and significant. So, all right. Well, thanks everyone for participating. Appreciate that. Back to you, Fraser.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Brenda. Welcome back, everyone. Okay, so before I talked a little bit about this new menu over here. Now, I'm logged in now. I'm logged into my account, and now I have access to these controls here. I can open a study, and I have a list of all the studies that I have available to me. So, for example, we were looking earlier at this webinar stress test. I can open that study. Now I can see the files that have been uploaded to that. I can see any users that are in there. And at this point, I can just minimize that, because this data that I've just collected, I want to save that to one of the participants that I just created. So an easy way of doing that is just to use the file save as system. So I come into file save as. This is the study that we're in, webinar stress test. I can see my participants down there. I can select a participant, and then I can just save this data in there. Usually there'll be a structure for this. I'll just call this ECG data from subject. Save. Oh, I didn't want to do that, sorry. I'm going to save as a graph file. And I'm going to put this in here. And I've already got a file in there. And I think I said this is ECG data from subject. And now this will be saved into that Z7285 participants record. Okay. We can come back over to our cloud. And I'm going to come into my studies, and this was this one over here. Z7285, I can see that participant, and I can see ECG data from the subject has now been added into this one. So if Brenda is reviewing and accessing data, we can see that this file is here, and then anyone can come over using the download. They can download that file, and then they can start analyzing it. Okay, so AcqKnowledge, once you're logged in, gives you access to a lot of the same features and controls that you have over here. We already opened a study. We can close a study. We can look at the study participants. So these are all the participants. We can see the files and the space. We can add a participant from within AcqKnowledge. So let's imagine that this recording was for a new participant. Maybe someone showed up at the last minute. You come in to add participant. And for this particular study, this is the information that we're collecting. So we can say, okay, well, it was a female. You can put in their age. We'll say 06, 05, and we'll say 1975, and we'll put in a height, and we'll say they were 5'4", a weight, 110 pounds, and we will say that they were a non-presenter. And there's the participant ID. And we're going to create that participant. And now we've just got this new participant added into the system. And I can now save any data to that particular participant. So, the system is really quite fluid. It behaves quite similar to AcqKnowledge in the sense that all your recording, everything you're doing remains the same. You don't actually even have to be logged in initially when you're doing your data collection. You can log in after, then you can start to upload your files. You can use the File Save As menu, or you can manage things from the study menu over here. So the whole essence behind the cloud is really to try and make the process very simplified, both in terms of managing the participants, managing the users that have access to the system, and also organizing the data and the associated information that come with it. So it kind of gives you a pretty decent overview of everything that is within the cloud system. I'm sure I've probably overlooked some elements, but I think for the moment that's probably a great stopping point. And then maybe if we've got some questions, Brenda, we can tackle some of those. So at this point, I'm going to hand back over to you.
Great. Okay, so let me go ahead and get to my screen here. Presenter. Okay, so so there's a lot of questions here, and I've answered most of them, Fraser. I'll probably just summarize a couple of them for you. But before I do that, I want to let people know that if you go to any page of our website, this is our webinars page, and you can go to our webinars page to watch any previous, we have over 100 webinars here, so different subjects, different signals, all different kinds of physiology data collection and recording and analysis webinars. Anyway, you can scroll down from any page of our website and get to your local. Okay, so we go on and on there. Okay, so you can go to our local sales representative. Mine is Amy because I'm in California, but yours will show up here. And if you fill out this form, an email will immediately be sent to that representative in your area, and they'll reach out to you within 24 hours. And then a lot of you have been asking about pricing, so you can go ahead and send that email to that representative, and then they'll get back to you with some information. And then in terms of questions, let me just go ahead and show this slide here. So a lot of people are asking about, is this, included in a system, AcqKnowledge Cloud? Does it have to be used? Can you just use AcqKnowledge normally without using the cloud? And did you want to talk about those configurations at all, Fraser, right here?
Yeah, actually, that's a great series of questions, and I was going to touch on that. This is obviously a license. So there's a license for the cloud. When you have the license, you can then log in within AcqKnowledge. The study menu, if you have AcqKnowledge 6.0, which is a software upgrade, everyone will have a trial version of the cloud so that you can sort of kick the tires, test it out. I believe it's a 30-day free trial, which allows you to, create participants, create studies, move data around, etc., etc. So you really get the chance to play around with that. But as I mentioned during the demonstration, even if you do have a license to the cloud, you can choose to ignore it within AcqKnowledge. Actually, it makes no difference. You only have to use it if you want to push data to the cloud. The cloud isn't controlling AcqKnowledge. AcqKnowledge isn't running in the cloud. AcqKnowledge still runs the same way it always has, which is locally on your device. So from that regard, you don't need it. It is a licensed feature. You can log on and use it at your leisure. You can even upload the data later. So if in the heat of battle, you don't want to be worrying about it, or a good example would be many of our customers actually collect data from a workplace, a school, a home, away from their lab. They can save all of their data locally, just the way they've always done. When they get back to their lab, they can then push that data from their local computer into the cloud. So it's very, very flexible in that regard. You're not forced to change the way you operate with regards to collecting your data.
Okay, great. Well, that's all we have time for. So it's just want to share with you that again, that we have webinars every month of the year, usually not during the holidays and not during the summer every month, but most months. Our next webinar is coming up on November 7th. It's Syncing Superlab and AcqKnowledge, with an overview on how to set up Superlab as well. That's for stimulus presentation. And that sign up will be available on our website tomorrow. So you can just go to biopack.com/webinars to sign up. And of course, we'll send an email as well. We host and attend, we offer our customers to host or attend workshops in their area. So we've held them all over the world. We have one coming up in Asia this in the next month, actually in the next couple of weeks, right, Fraser? And so if you're interested in hosting a workshop or attending a workshop in your area, let us know. We bring the equipment to you, and it's longer than a webinar. Webinars are limited to like 1 hour, but we can have a whole day or multi-day workshop at your site, and then you can invite regional people from your area. And that works really well for people who want that hands-on experience. And then if you'd like any additional information, you can visit our website. Today's webinar was recorded. We'll email a link to the recording and the slides. When you close the webinar window, you'll see a survey. Please complete that so we have your feedback and ideas. And then, of course, you can visit biopack.com for any additional references. We have lots of videos, screencasts with specific features, analysis tools, application notes with step-by-step instructions, information about upcoming events or past webinars. And then, of course, don't forget to come to our 4T training conference in July here in Santa Barbara, California. Fraser, anything else before we conclude?
No, I think really the key point to make is there is a free trial, so upgrade to AcqKnowledge 6 and you will have a free trial, and you can test the cloud functionality out and see how it fits with your lab and how you run your studies.
Okay, well, great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thanks for all your great questions. This concludes today's webinar. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.